question you might be asking, Astra Yao versus every other A-rank support in the game. You might be thinking, where does she stack up against all the other A-rank supports in the game? Because you might have the A-rank supports, you might have them built up, you're like, well, how much of a difference does she really do over these support characters? So we're going to be going over today, guys, going over like everything that she kind of does versus everything that they do in a simplified form. And then on top of that, guys, I'll also be giving you a real damage difference in numbers of how much more damage one character does over another character, or in this case, your A-rank support character versus Astra Yao. So I figured, why not start this list off at tier 1 on the Pride 1 tier list, our Bible, and that is going to be Soukaku, the lowest ranked A-rank support character in the game. So let's go ahead and start off with her first, guys. So as you can see here, this is going to be going over everything that each of these characters do, and as you can see, Astra is going to be giving you 1200 attack at max buff, crit damage at 30%, damage at 20%. She's going to be healing your team for 2950, so this means every single character in her team is getting 950 heals. She's also going to be inherently playing into quick swaps and allowing your characters to do quick swaps. She also allows you to do 2 free chain attacks as well, so that's also something to mention. And she is going to be giving you off-field damage. This means when she's not on the field, this means when she's not the active character, she will be doing damage to the enemies. Let's compare that to a bar-for-bar breakdown of what Soukaku is going to be doing, guys. So Soukaku is giving you an 1000 attack buff. They're also giving you ice res down by 10%, and then also ice damage down by 20% as well. Now, this is going to be at E6, or I guess in this game it's not E6, it's going to be M6, right? And that's what it's going to be for all of our characters today. They're all going to be M6 here, just so we get a good grasp on what we're judging here, right? So the first thing we can actually know here, guys, is that Astra is actually giving it more attack than what Soukaku is able to provide. So that is going to be an obvious win for Miss Astra over here. Then she's giving crit damage as well. She doesn't provide crit damage, but what Astra does provide is a 20% damage increase. This is just an overall damage increase, whereas you are cuckolded to the ice damage type here for Soukaku, so this is going to be a win in my opinion for here as well. Now, ice res versus 30% crit damage. So to get what this would be, guys, I'm just using this damage calculator right here. These exact numbers really don't matter because this is just using the damage formula overall, and what we're really just utilizing this for is implementing these buffs and debuffs that these people are doing and seeing what the expected damage is. We're not tinkering with any of the stats here at all because this does not matter. So for the crit damage buff of 30%, guys, we are actually going to be getting 3569 damage here. So let's go ahead and implement what we would get with that res down now, which is going to be a 10% res down, which equals to 3549 here. So actually, I'm very surprised with this. I actually thought it would be a little bit different, but as you can see, I mean, Astra wins this as well with the crit damage versus the ice damage res here. So I mean, like, kind of, I'm not gonna lie, she loses out on most categories when it comes to pure buffs that she's giving out. Now, obviously, both these characters do their own things because they have their own kits and stuff like that, but overall, I think just her overall kit is just far better than what she can provide. Astra is literally beating her out on just about everything. I think the only thing the Astra doesn't really beat her out on is the ability to break down shields stun meter faster. Like, she can actually break down stun meters pretty fast, and I think that she will have a faster ability of anomaly. So I mean, she kind of has those two things going for her there, but I want to get into the damage calcs here at the bottom to see what our damage percent calculations are looking like with just all of these buffs being taken into account here. And I think we kind of see that same story here, because if we're taking all the buffs into account, I mean, attack buffs are pretty similar, 200 more for Astra. Damage percentage is very, very similar. I mean, this has only ice damage, and then ice res was very, very close to what this is. Not even a 1% difference, like with crit damage plus 30% over ice damage res, which is down by 10%. So let's take a look at these numbers here, guys. This is going to be Soukaku with no ice damage calculation. This means you're running Soukaku on a non-ice team. That means that she would be giving you 71% of the damage output that Astra is able to give you just with having this up at all times, and this is very easy to have up at all times. Keep that in mind. Like, there is no like restrictions here. Now, with all those restrictions in place, which is ice with Soukaku specifically, here it gets a little bit different, right? Because the damage number only drops by about 6% when running in an ice scenario. Now, with that being said, still, you do have to keep in mind, that's with only calculating for these three things right here, right? That's not calculating for all the extra quick swaps you're getting, right? That's not counting for the off-field damage you're doing. That's not counting for the 2 extra chain attacks you're doing. Hell, I mean, with her, honestly, kind of even harder just to run her, because to get her buff up, it's not just inherent like she does. You quick assist and then you get free attack buffs like that, right? It kind of works the same way as her, I guess, right? Because you have to get the quick assist from Soukaku to your DPS you want to actually carry that buff over. So you do have to be smart with placement of your team. If you don't place her right on your team, she's not getting that off. Also, she has a lot more on-field time as well. That's something you also have to keep up with as well. So overall, I just think that this is a huge beatdown for Astra all across the board here. I think that's a clear winner for Soukaku versus Astra here, right? But you know what else she is, guys? She's not only a better version of Soukaku, I think that she's also very similar to Lucy as well, because Lucy also does off-field damage with her little guard board things, and we can go ahead and just talk about everything here, right? Attack is doubled here. I mean, this is an obvious clear winner here, guys, that Astra's taking this one home. That's just an easy, like, that's double the attack we're getting there, right? Crit damage. This is M6, by the way, so M6 only 10%. I mean, this is a bigger number, better person, so this does win out here. I think overall, on the buff front, Astra does give a lot more. Don't get me wrong. I really do. And I really do think that in this circumstance with Lucy, Astra is better. But I will say, the reason why I think Lucy is better than Soukaku, first of all, guys, I do think that Lucy does fit into a lot more team, so a lot more synergistic, as we put right here, than what Soukaku is here. But on the same note here, Astra literally pairs up with every attack character and then also every anomaly character as well. So, I mean, that's basically every DPS you're going to have in the game anyway. So, like, for synergy-wise, I mean, she does pair up better overall, right? Because she pairs up with literally every DPS in the game, whereas she does not. So, I mean, this is going to be a win for Astra as well, and this is going to be another loss here. Now, as far as off-field damage, this is yet another thing that I think Astra beats out Lucy on here, right? I think the off-field damage that Astra provides is better than Lucy, and the reason I think that is because the guard boards, the big problem with the guard boards that I see, guys, is the guard boards literally derive themselves off of every other stat that you have for Lucy, right? Like, if we look here, they're getting crit rate and crit damage based off of Lucy. They're also getting attack and impact based off of Lucy. Like, they're getting every one of their stats, like every one of their major stats, based off of Lucy. So this means the way you would need to build Lucy is like attack, impact, crit rate, crit damage, right? That, like, essentially that's what you would want to make sure your guard boards are getting as much, like, damage as possible, because she is off the field a lot, right? Which is a major pro with her, and I think that puts her way above what Soukaku is able to do, because she is just off the field so much, and you're able to get more damage done with your DPS. But the thing here is, like, it relies on so many more stats, whereas her off-field damage literally just relies on getting her attack percent up. That's, I mean, that, and I guess energy as well, like, that's really the only thing here. Now let's hop into quick assist, or fast quicks, right? She offers a lot of fast quicks, don't get me wrong. I think she's a lot faster than Soukaku in this area, but still, she is the quick swap queen over here. Like, Astra is the quick swap king over here, so I mean, I think she loses it on this too. Uptime is a very important thing, because with the more uptime you have, the less damage you're doing with your main DPS in most situations. So with that being said, I mean, like, this is, like, honestly, bar none, I think probably the second most important thing over the buffs, right? I think buffs come first, and then second most important thing is how much uptime these characters actually have. Astra wins this. Astra is literally doing off-field buffs, the same as Lucy would be doing, but she's providing a lot more buffs on top of this as well. So, I mean, I think with that being said, with her being off-field about the same amount of time as Astra's off-field, it's really hard to sit here and say that Astra's not better, because just the inherent buffs are there, and I think that's why her buffs are kind of low in comparison to Soukaku's buffs, because Soukaku does have a lot more field time, but you kind of make up for that with just her being off the field all the fucking time, right? And you shoot the little boards out, and the boards are helping you deal damage. They also help you with anomaly buildup as well. Honestly though, guys, I really do think that Astra is a combination of both Lucy and Soukaku together to make, like, the de facto best support unit in the game, and we can take a look at the damage calc here as well. If you're running Lucy on the team, you're literally getting 65% of the damage you would get with Astra on the team as well. Now, obviously, that is the pure buffs that they're giving, and not what the guard boards are doing, right? That is just pure buffs. But if we're talking pure buffs, you're going to be doing 65% of the damage with your main DPS versus if you had Astra on the team. So that's all I really have to say about Miss Lucy here as well. I think the de facto winner here is also going to be Astra. I think Astra absolutely destroys her. I think she destroys both of these characters. So now let's move on to the final category, which is Nicole. Now, Nicole, hands down, does give you the most in terms of what characters can do. Why? This right here. Literally, the defense down that she provides, absolutely amazing in terms of the damage output you're able to do, right? And the defense down that this provides actually does beat out the crit damage that you're providing here, and honestly, it's pretty close to what this attack is, right? So the numbers that I got from this, guys, from running this is you get about 100 to 200 more damage when running just defense down when compared to the crit damage you're getting versus the attack, right? This is the attack for Astra right here. You get about 300 extra damage out here whenever you're running the attack buff versus if you were just to run the defense down, right? So, like, it kind of lies in the middle of these two right here. If I were to put like defense down comparing to like these two right here, I do think the winner is going to be for Astra overall. But this is a very strong contender to actually compete with these things, especially standalone. Like, it does beat crit damage out, obviously, but it can't beat the massive 1200 damage you're doing there. Now, ether damage, I think this, I mean, obviously this is like, this beats the damage percentage out right now. I would say I do prefer the damage percentage multiplier here on Astra over this damage multiplier for ether damage only, because if you look at the game right now, guys, we literally only have what I think it's like 1 DPS right now for ether. So if you don't have Zhuyan, this literally doesn't mean shit to you. So for that reasoning alone, literally the win here would go to Astra, but a numeric win would go to Nicole here. So that's going to be really huge for someone like Nicole. Now let's go ahead and talk about this. Crit rate. Crit rate going to be absolutely massive. Crit rate, honestly, I prefer over crit damage or getting crit damage with builds, just because crit rate's a lot harder to build in my opinion. You get a lot less of it when you're building. Obviously, it's a 1-to-2 ratio of what you would normally get when building crit damage. So it's really hard to pass up this crit rate here. Like, definitely, I do think if we were to compare like the crit rate to the crit damage here, I would say that this crit damage does win over the crit damage that you're getting from this. So that's just it in my opinion. And honestly, you're kind of like matching up bar for bar with the buffs. You can get like, she does 3 different things in terms of like either debuffing or buffing your team, versus her as well that she does kind of 3 different things as well. But this is where it gets into the nitty gritty, like we said again. Full team heal. This is an obvious win for her. The quick assist here and the fast assist. Overall buffs for Astra here, just overall when using her in her best scenario, even still is beating out Nicole here. So, I mean, we can take a look at the number here, right? And it's actually very close. I was a lot closer than I expected, right? So if you're using Nicole on the team without any other ether unit, right? This is without taking that ether damage percentage into consideration at all. You are getting 79% of the damage you would be getting with Astra, right? Which is, what do we have here? Well, that's 65% and 71%. So overall, the closest comparison I think you could make is this right here. And that's not even going into the damage calc with using an ether character. So like Zhuyan, for example, a very niche scenario here, right? Nicole, Zhuyan, they're very close to the actual numerical value they can give you to your Zhuyan in that circumstance. So, I mean, like, if you had a Zhuyan team, like, I think you're pretty set off with what you have right now in Nicole, right? I would say that right now. There are a lot of extra things you get here, right? Like with Zhuyan specifically, if we're talking about Zhuyan specifically, right? You're getting a 2% damage increase. Cool, whatever, right? But you are getting a lot more quick assist off with Zhuyan. You're also getting a lot more chain attacks as well, because you do have to keep in mind, ult does activate these extra chain attacks, and with activating these extra chain attacks off, that means you're building up shotgun shells on Zhuyan faster. Also with the quick swaps, she literally just gives free quick stops. You have to go to her, use her skill to do it, and then you quick swap after that, right? So that means you're very reliant on the energy coming up, whereas, I mean, I guess you're reliant on her energy too, but her energy is more readily available in my opinion versus her energy right here. And also, really big thing, uptime for Nicole, massively low in comparison to what uptime for Astra is, because this is only staying up for 3.5 seconds, guys. You're having to re-up this, so you're using a lot more energy on Nicole overall, and you do need a more technical playstyle to play with Nicole. Also, you're getting off-field damage as well, which also helps ether. That means you have that ether build up there as well, a lot better with Astra because of the fact that she's giving you off-field ether damage, which gives you just the ether anomaly proc off a lot easier with Zhuyan, which leads to more damage overall too. I mean, overall, like, she is better than Nicole, but if we ever get more like ether units in the game, I think that her value just goes up tremendously. Right now, overall, this is the clear winner. Like, obviously, guys, like, she beats every single one of the supports in the game, and I think we just proved that today with everything we've kind of talked about. But I will say, was very surprised with the matchup between Nicole and her, and overall, she just has more synergies than everyone. Like, she is a great unit. She is 100% a great unit, but do keep in mind, like I said, in that Zhuyan situation, in terms of actual damage numbers, without any of this other shit we're talking about here, very similar to what Astra is able to do. Anyways, guys, that's going to do it for today's video. Hopefully you enjoyed. Are you pulling for Astra? Are you pulling for our big bubonius mommy queen here? Or are you going to be skipping her? Let me know in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear what your guys' thoughts are. And yeah, that's going to do it for today's video. Hopefully you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one later. Bye-bye.